Hello, it's another great session today, and we're super excited to join you live again today. Well, we want to look at the journey as Scrum Masters and Agile coach, and we just want to have that conversation to see how we can be of help. But just consider this as a conversation which is going to be of value to you. And it's a great day today because I have a very special guest on the program, Coach Germaine, and we are going to be benefiting a lot from her knowledge. And also, you're going to be learning more about her in a shorter moment. But let us know where you're connecting from so that we can give you a shout out. And also, our bigger goal here is to attend to you and not just to, oh, is to attend to you and not just to maybe give a very long speech. So we always ask that use the chat box as much as possible. Put your question in there. It's one of the opportunity you have not to pay for what we're giving. When we come live, everything is for free. So it's one opportunity for you to practice. So hello, Coach Germaine. It's great to have you here and welcome to the chat room where we want to talk about what is stopping you from getting to that position as an agile coach or a scrum master.
Thank you so much, Dr. Francis Mbunya. It's really an honor for me to be here today. I can, thank you enough. So, just a quick introduction about myself. Hello, viewers. Hello, subscribers, and new viewers. You're welcome to this channel. My name is Germaine Kwene. I am an agile coach. I work for a company as an agile coach currently. And my goal is to, ensure that the team members, are fully equipped with everything they need for them to succeed, because their success is my success. So whatever it is that is that is a bottleneck for them, that is preventing them from making that progress, I am there to alleviate all of those issues, especially the ones that they cannot resolve themselves. So a quick background again, I've been in this career for over some years now, and I will say that it is definitely an interesting one. So that's just a little bit about myself, and we'll be talking more about it as we go further.
Thank you, Coach Germain. So, guys, we have two brains now to give you all what you need. So, thank you for those who are tuning in. I see people tuning in from California. I see Princey from Ohio. I see Ijoma from, I think that should be GA. Florida. So quite a lot of people. Thank you very much for putting it in. And yeah, start putting in your question. We are going to be having your question. But before we start taking the question, I want to just throw a question up to Coach Germaine. And you can follow, I'm going to put Coach Germaine YouTube page on the chat box so that we can all also show her some love and follow her. She's running a YouTube page, Diadem of Agility. Now, let's talk about I was trying to figure out the concept behind that learning because with coaches, I know they always have a rationale on naming and a rationale on putting teams' name out there. So, Coach Germaine, can you tell us a bit about the concept of your YouTube page and also maybe give us about some of, no, we're going to take that question, then we'll talk about what is stopping many people from getting into that position. But the first question I'm going to have for you to talk a bit about your YouTube channel and your social media handle and how people can be able to follow you.
Okay. So my YouTube channel name, just like Dr. Francis rightly called it, is Diadem of Agility. And just like you hear the name Diadem, it's a princely jewel. Okay. That is how I see agility. Agility is that rare gem that once you get hold of it, you never want to let it go,
Yeah.
because it is something that is going to keep adding value to you day after day. It is something you practice in your daily life. It is something that is applicable in every instances of life. And what do you get at the end of it? You realize that, oh, you've been struggling using an old way of doing things. Now, okay, this one is definitely better. And sometimes you do it without even knowing that you're doing agile itself. So that is how I was able to come up with that name, or we were able to come up with that name, Diadem of Agility, because again, it is priceless. So a couple of my social media handle here. I am Germaine Kwene on Facebook. I am Germaine Kwene on LinkedIn. Not so friendly with Instagram, but that's something I'm considering. I equally belong to what is this, TikTok. So I equally belong to TikTok as Germaine Kwene, but I intend or I plan to, refine some of the names based on what I'm currently doing because I had those names long time ago. So there's need for me to do some tweaking.
All right, thank you very much, Jermaine. And I've shared the link. She just did a very recent video. Tell me about yourself, which is like, that's a question you're gonna get. That's a question you cannot fail to get. And you want to click on that link and make sure you watch that and do some likes and subscribe there. All right, without wasting so much of your time, I know you have so many questions. A lot are already coming into the chat box. Let's get into those questions. But first, question, Jermaine, what do you think is the biggest challenge an average person out there is facing in terms of job search?
Okay. Okay, so let me just handle maybe one of the biggest challenge, even though we have several of them out there.
Yeah.
So one thing about this field is you do not want to get into this field with wrong reasons. Okay. This field is all about emotional intelligence. And before I even answer this question, let me give a quick let me give a quick talk about my own experience. So before I got into this career, I was actually a business analyst. And being a business analyst in an organization, ah, at one point I realized that okay, the organization was trying to transition to agility.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to have been picked to be the Scrum Master that needed that training. So there was an internal training within the organization that was done, and they saw the need to pick me or to choose me to take part in that training. So I called myself as a fortunate one. So I actually took that training, and after taking that training, I realized that oh my goodness, there's just a whole lot in this career that
Wow.
it aligns perfectly well with my natural personality as an individual. So after taking that training, what I did was I was hungry for more, and I decided to embark on research. I did more research, even enrolled in a class, took the course itself, then became a Scrum Master. So I worked with this organization as a Scrum Master for a while, and at the same time I was still hungry. I was like, okay, I've been able to experiment or try something different, and it's really working because that is really who I am. I'm a servant leader. I am very customer centric. So now I said, okay, it's time for me to explore other opportunities. I want to see how this is applicable in a healthcare environment. Okay, I want to see how Agile is applicable in other sectors. So what I did was, I had to go into, so I put my application out there. I was fortunate to have landed, to have an offer for one of the healthcare organization I worked for, and
Okay.
that's how.
Let me interrupt you a bit. I know this
Mhm.
some a lot of people are waiting to hear. When you put in that application for an offer, how many interviews did you have to go through before getting an offer?
That is a very good question. So when I put that interview, actually, it wasn't. I went through 4 interviews actually.
Mm.
I went through 4 interviews and I landed my offer. And I will say that, the very first one, anyway, I'm going to address this, but I just wanted to finish that journey. Then I'll start talking about the reasons why some people, find it difficult
Go
to
ahead.
actually land offers. So I applied with this, I put my resume out there, but what I was actually looking for was a healthcare, sector, which I finally got one. And I was so excited about it after 4 interviews, like I said earlier. So that is how I began to gradually gain more skills. I got introduced into what is called safe, and I did that, practiced that, within that environment. Even had to go on site. So I have some, I'm really very glad to share this kind of experience with the viewers here. So now let me go now to answering your question. But that's kind of my background, how I got into this agile field, and how what got me to this position that I am in. So what I realized is along the way, because I had other people that try to apply while I was equally applying, but some of them, for some reason, they didn't they were not able to get the offer. Again, wrong foundation. is something that is going to make you to stay in the market for so long. Wrong foundation is, what am I talking about? What do I mean when I say wrong foundation? Maybe you just got into the field because you're hearing that, oh, okay, there's a whole lot of money in this thing. Let me just jump in here. Actually, it's going to suffocate you at the end of the day. Okay. You might have the certification, you might have everything you need, right, for you to be called a Scrum Master or an Agilist. But if the right mindset is not there, if that mindset to serve people is not there, if that emotional intelligence is not there, because one thing you agree with me within this environment is emotional intelligence, we need it like 70%. It is very important because you're working with people, you're dealing with minds, you're trying to support, you're supporting people on a daily basis. So there is need for you to kind of be empathetic, to their situation, try to put yourself, in their shoes. That's the only way that, you can actually be able to sustain or be to be stable in this kind of environment. Another thing is talking on this same note, or yeah, on this same note of being empathetic. One thing about taking interviews is once you go in front of an interviewer, there's need for you to be passionate. Agile is all about passion. Oh, how can you go and you're answering question and there's really no passion that can be sensed from your answer? Passion in this field is key to almost everything. Sometimes you go to an interview, you might be saying, the wrong things, but guess what? That passion, that passion that you have in your voice, the way you talk, things just come out, It's not as if someone has to, tell you what to say or whatever, but it just flows because that is who you are. Servant leadership, be able to, relate with individuals, be able to connect with minds. So another thing is, okay, maybe your resume needs to be adjusted. Okay, those are a couple of, maybe your resume needs to be adjusted because in this field right now, maybe what the organization that are hiring, maybe it's a healthcare or whichever one, and maybe what you have on your resume does not, because the resume itself goes through a system,
Yeah,
okay, where it picks out certain words that the organization requires. Maybe your resume is lacking that. I'll quote, for instance, things like maybe the little one, the very, basic ones, stand up, things like metrics, things like, what else can I call? Servant leadership, communication, collaboration, a couple of things, PI planning, maybe it's missing in your resume. There's need for you to adjust it. And again, within this environment, your resume, you will know that it's a living document. You can always tweak it around, based on the changes or the progress that you make as time goes by.
okay, thank you very much. What advice are you going to give? Most you spoke about the resume. It's very important. I've reviewed several resume. I found them wanting. Now you have a lot of people. They put so many stuff on their resume that they cannot talk about. Now, how can someone actually validate if the resume is the problem or not? What would you advise them to do?
Okay. I mean, your resume is your personality, right? Your resume is you. Why is there a need for you to put so many things on your resume that you cannot really talk to? Now, if, for instance, you don't have specific skill set, that is why, we have the world is evolving. Let's do some research. Go and learn about it, okay? Add those skills to your toolbox, and then you can add it to your resume instead of you, going with what you have or having so many. I mean, what you're talking about, I can resonate with that because
Yeah,
I've been in a situation where, I interview a Scrum Master, looking at their resume, they have so many stuff on there, but they cannot really talk to it.
yeah,
Okay. But the thing is, you need to digest your resume. That is who you are.
that's right.
No one can can talk about you the way you know yourself. You know yourself better. Okay. No one knows me better than I know myself. So when it comes to me talking about myself, I'll tell you, who I really am. So if you have some stuff on your resume, you should be able to talk to it. It is something that, sleep over it, digest it as much as you can. If there are things that maybe you don't seem to understand, do research.
Mm. Okay. Wow, that's very powerful. This is just to say that when they say tell me about yourself, they're simply asking you, can you defend who is on the resume? It's not yet. Can you just confirm that what we're seeing in the resume is exactly what who you are? So it's also an indication, if I can draw from Coach Germaine, that if you cannot confidently talk about your resume, it's an indication that you're not ready to start taking interviews. So if someone cannot take your resume and then interview you line by line, and you can confidently talk about each line on your resume, it's an indication that you need more to learn. And of course, sometimes you might not really do it all by yourself, which is why you have coaching. I always tell everyone, look, for you to effectively not just get a job and get the job and sustain it, you need a coach. You don't need Coach Francis, you don't need Coach Germaine, you need a coach. But always, I always say, okay, go to someone you trust. And one of the stuff before we can start taking questions on the chat box is that although so many people know that they need help, they're looking for cheap help. They're looking for, oh, this is too expensive. Oh, this is this. And I was having a conversation with one of my India friend who's also a safe trainer, and it's like, somebody give me $500 and they want me to take interview for them. They want me to do everything for them. I was like, oh, you look, you were looking for a six-figure job and you don't want to invest. That was so
Let me,
fun.
let me just interrupt you on this because this is really, something I like to hear. I find it so difficult for people to try to get into this field, and they are complaining about, the charges for the course, and that journey. Because if you want to sum everything up,
Yeah,
take for instance, if they were doing something else completely different. Let's say you want to become a nurse, for instance.
yeah,
Do you know the thousands of dollars you're gonna pay to be that? You're even gonna accumulate student loans.
yeah.
Okay. But in this career, guess what? It is nothing compared to, what you're gonna get at the end of the day.
That's right.
But again, you need to be, that kind of a person that can work with human beings. Don't just come in here because, you see people making, money or all of that. Because, like I said earlier, I always emphasize on this. It's gonna choke people at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you'll find yourself wanting to run away. Okay, thinking, oh, this is difficult. It is not difficult. So, on the aspect of, that budget, trust me, it is nothing compared to who you're gonna become. So there's need for you to invest in yourself and see it as nothing because it is really nothing.
Okay. Guys, it's about a mindset. Saying all those who working from LinkedIn, we have about 60 people connecting from LinkedIn. Please hit that share button. We're about to start answering those questions. I see already a lot of them in the chat box and on YouTube and on Facebook. I think you just hit that share button and start putting in your question. Now, Coach, the first question we have, someone, hello, doctor, is it possible for a Scrum team to work on only front end why another team work on back end in a safe environment? Yes, it's possible. It just depends the way your team is configured. It's possible that there's a team that handles just the front end. There's a team that's going to do the back end in a safe environment. The question is yes. The answer is yes. Question man, you have something to add on that?
I go with you. I agree with that.
Okay, perfect. So the next question that's coming up is coming from Jane, and Jane said, "What are some of the difference between a Scrum Master and Agile coach?"
That is a very good question, Jane. Hello, Jane. Okay. So the difference between a Scrum Master and an Agile coach is, and after I'm done, and Dr. Francis, you can chime in as well.
Yeah,
So for a Scrum Master role, what you do is you are a servant leader. You're dedicated to a team or two, depending on the organization. Because there are some organizations that maybe you need to support just one team, or maybe you need to support two teams. Okay. So that is what you do on a daily basis, is to ensure that you're that support to them, you are that shield to them, you are helping with impediments, removal, you're helping facilitating all their events that they have. You are supporting them to ensure that they keep going a step ahead. You're there, basically to, ensure that they have that happy environment for them to thrive. That is one thing. Make sure the environment they work in is comfortable for each and everyone to kind of contribute, to be open to one another. So being a Scrum Master, you work with team that you're dedicated to 100%. Now, when it comes to an Agile coach is not dedicated to one team or two teams like a Scrum Master. An Agile coach work across teams. You ensure that, you're training the team, especially if it's an environment that is transitioning into Agile. You're part of that trainer, or you're one of the trainer that trains the team from waterfall to Agile. And there are a couple of steps, to ensure that that happens. So on a daily basis, you're as a coach, you are making sure that you're connecting, you're liaising with the Scrum Masters and product owners for the different teams, just to kind of have that conversation with them to make sure, or to ensure that they have everything they need for them to succeed. So you're working across teams. You might be supporting 10 teams at a time. You might be supporting more. But again, what will happen is you focus on the one that needs your time most, or it has some critical situation that is happening. But as far as the transformation is concerned, you are that trainer. As a Scrum Master, you are a support to the Agile coach during a training session, especially if it's about your team. Okay, so you're going to be that support, but you're not doing any heavy lifting, because the Agile coach is the one doing that heavy lifting. So Agile coaches, and so they coach, from team to like the organization, managers, product owners, leaders, talk to them, kind of change, um, ensure that there's kind of a shift in mindset piece, because that one is very important. There is sometimes you hear people say, oh, we are we are agilists or whatever. But if you go deep down, based on the way they react on a daily basis, or the way they interpret situations or react to certain situations, you realize that they are truly not agile, because something is missing along the line. So those areas of coaching, wherever there are gaps, an agile coach, helps to ensure that these gaps are closed.
All right, perfect. I think that goes so much detail to explain it. An agile coach, simply you coach all teams. You look at the entire team. As a Scrum Master, you're focusing on event, you're facilitating event, and you're working very closely with individual. An agile coach can also kind of get into your team and talk to individual if your team is not performing, just to see how they can help. But the role of an agile coach is more like, you can say, he supervises the team and makes sure that everything is okay. Well, thank you very much for throwing light on that. And the next question is from Peter Agbo. Peter say, what 3 projects have you worked on, and how did you apply Scrum framework? Peter, this is going to depend on your environment. And this is where Coach Germaine was saying you need to do your homework. So if you say you work as a Scrum Master for, let's say, what for,
Maybe a healthcare or
yeah,
mm-hmm.
yes, for an insurance company. Now you need to understand what does working for an Scrum Master with an insurance company means, right? You need to look at what business value. Now, this is one thing I tell everybody: you don't work as a Scrum Master because they want to bring you in to facilitate event. No, they're bringing you in because there's a business value that need to be delivered using an agile methodology. So without a business value that need to be delivered, you have no role as a Scrum Master. You're not just coming in. So, oh, I was working with one team, I was facilitating event here and there. What business value? So with your 3 projects, what are the business value? Were you working on building, let's say, a new app that's supposed to issue insurance to maybe AT&T customer, or only? Were you kind of adding a functionality where people can also buy insurance and maybe share with other family members? There need to be a business value that company wants to deliver. Working with a Scrum team is very expensive, and they will not just bring you in to come facilitate events here and there. So that question is going to depend on your environment and exactly on how you what you put on your resume. So there's no specific answer to that. And I want to say a big shout out to Yeli. I've actually taken a course on Yeli when I was still about 3 years back. I think I took a Sigma black belt course with them. So I'm
I
gonna
did too.
Yes,
I
check
do.
that out. And thank you for hopping up. Yali, we appreciate you and sharing your knowledge in there. So we appreciate that. So the next question is from Bertrand. Bertrand say, how would you drive value in your team, organize organization, product team as a Scrum Master, or how would you drive value into your team as a Scrum Master? You wanna attempt that question?
Oh, yes. That's
Okay.
a very great question. How would you drive value in your team? You know, so there are a couple of ways you can do that. First of all, one thing you want to ask yourself is when you say, would you drive value? What are you trying to achieve in the first place? Because we need to have a focus. What are you trying to get out of what you want to do? Or what is currently in place that is not working that you want to fix? Okay, those are things that we need to reflect on, because you can't just go into an organization and you feel like, oh, I want to add value. Meanwhile, what you're trying to work on is not something that is broken. In Agile, we say if something is not broken, don't try to fix it because it's just not broken.
Yeah.
Now, there are ways we can add value to the organization depending on the gaps that we observed. Take, for instance, that you get into a team, and in that team, they are just not, not everyone is aligned, on how Agile works. Maybe a couple of them attend events here and there, some don't, and maybe a couple of them are pointing fingers on others. They are not leveraging the Scrum values.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are let me say just two examples I can highlight right now, and I'm gonna talk about them. So in this kind of instance, for people that are not, for a team that is not, leveraging the Scrum values, let's say maybe a team member, is always telling the other person, you know what, maybe, I mean, if you don't have something to say, sometimes you need to, just keep quiet during meetings. That is definitely wrong. It is something that needs to be addressed right away. And as a Scrum Master, you want to connect with each and every individual that are involved, the two individuals that have the heads on. Connect with them on a one-on-one to kind of understand where they are coming from.
Yeah.
Why is this the case? Why did this even come up in the first place? Because those are not things that should happen in a professional setting. So in this case, I have experienced something like this when I used to work as a Scrum Master. And what I did was, okay, I connected with these individual folks to kind of talk about what is going on, because I cannot help resolve an issue if I don't really understand the root cause. So I was trying to gather facts. And based on what I understood was, oh, what is happening is in the past, this person, whenever they make a comment during a meeting, it's not something that, is valuable to the team. Okay, that is okay. If it's something that is not valuable, I mean, that is their own point of view. There's a way that, we don't have to take that opinion, but you can't just shut the person down and say, okay, you don't have to say this, or this is what you need to say during meetings. You can't do that. So I had to bring them on a common ground after connecting one-on-one with them, brought them on a common ground for them to kind of acknowledge that, there's something actually going on between them that is not right, because it's affecting the team. Okay, because what happened is that entire scenario, that thing that happened during that particular time, that affected the team's ability to deliver,
Yeah.
because at some instance, other people tend to be influenced by each and every one of the developer, depending on, okay, who you like best and all that kind of stuff. So when I got into that environment, that was definitely chaotic. It wasn't very healthy for the team. So one-on-one, brought them together. They acknowledged that, okay, this is wrong. Then I suggested a training session for us to touch base again on the Agile values, because I know it is something they have done before, but it's been there for a while. So they had their training for a while, and a couple of those, values were being left out on their daily basis while they were trying to implement their work. So we went through that training of the Scrum values. We talked about courage, commitment, focus, openness, respect. And what I did was I encouraged them to reflect it moving forward. So, and on a daily basis, once I realized that a couple of them started reflecting these values, that idea of, okay, you don't have to say this, or, shutting people down during meeting, that gradually went away. It wasn't immediate, but at least that idea, that notion of telling someone, okay, you don't have to say this, that went away. And that was how, this team member, began to feel free among the other team members, and could express, themselves. Because what happened to this was, because they refuse to say, oh, or because that particular one of that developers said, you don't have to say any of this because whenever you talk, you're not adding value to the team. So at that point, doing it on their daily base, meeting at when they conducting their daily stand-up, this particular team member that was shut down or was dismissed immediately stopped opening up. And at the end of the sprint, they ended up with so many impediments, or I mean, so many open stories, because she was not able to air out her concern or what was going on her plate. So, after all of this, the one-on-one, bringing them together and ensuring that they are all on the same page, going through that training and constantly coaching them on a daily basis, this went away. And the team was able to achieve, the overall value of, what they crafted for the beginning of the sprint. And that was like the very first time.
Yeah.
That was like the very first time for them to achieve everything. And I was like, okay. So during our retrospective, we talked about it. I brought it up and I was like, okay, because I always encourage my team to try something. The fact that, we're being trained on this and we're encouraged to leverage this value, that doesn't mean that we must leverage it, okay?
Right.
Let us try it. And if it doesn't work, we can always pivot, because Agile is not cast on concrete, okay?
Wow.
If things are not working, there is need for us to pivot in different areas and try something new, because Agile is all about that mindset of, willingness to adapt to new things because of the improvement we want to make. We don't want to use our mistake to resolve. We don't want to use our mistake, as its performance in, metrics. That is not the case. If you fall today, get up, dust your feet, and learn from it and keep going. That is what agility is all about. So during that retrospective, when this was brought up, I asked them, okay, do we want to go back to our old way of working, where, people get shut down, people's opinions are dismissed immediately, teams had, the environment was not conducive, it was so tense and all that. So they were like, no, there's definitely value for them to them leveraging these Scrum core values. So they don't want to go back to the old ways because they are definitely seeing value. Now, this is one way you can add value to your team as a Scrum Master. Maybe another one now in this case is a couple of them don't understand why they are attending Scrum events. Okay, a typical example I'll give to you is about retrospective. Okay, so I got into this organization as a Scrum Master and I realized that, some of the team members, they didn't really care about retrospective. And guess what? When I connected one-on-one to understand what is going on, I heard different things, but they were all, speaking kind of this. I connected with different individuals, but they were saying the same thing. And the same thing was, okay, they see retrospective as a blame game. Okay. All right. So I said, okay, what do you mean by a blame game? So, they were able to open up to me that a couple of them will say, oh, because you were not able to achieve our sprint goal because Bertrand or McBride or this other person was not able to do their work. Okay. So they forgot about the fact that it is a team's effort. It is not an individual effort. Okay. Agile sees work as, okay, what is the team able to do? Not an individual. Yeah, we have individual working on tasks and that contributes to the overall goal. But if something doesn't work, if the entire goal is not, what we want it to be at the end, then it is the team that, will be called out for it, not one person, not two, not three. Okay. So at this point, what happened is I said, okay, if it's okay, I would like us to go through a training session so I can train the team on the Scrum events, because it's like, a couple of pieces are missing here and there. So good thing, or for the fortunate thing for me, was they agreed. We went through this training session, and after the training session, I encouraged them because I kind of explained, no, stand up is for this one is for this, and I deep dive more on retrospective. And I said, retrospective is not a blame game meeting. Rather, it is a meeting for the team to celebrate their wins. Wow. It's a meeting for them to celebrate their milestone. It is a meeting for the team to reflect on how the past sprint ended in terms of the people, the tool, the environment, okay, the product itself. What can we do to improve? Okay, what are the areas that we did so well on? What are the areas that we sucked in? And from the areas that we didn't do so well on, we can come up with something we call retrospective. We can come up with something we call, action items. Okay, because with the action items or Kaizen, it helps the team to keep making progress. That is what retrospective is. So that's how I explain to the team, and I encourage them to try attending retrospective to kind of see a different view of it. And that if they don't see value in the retrospective, they should stop attending.
Wow.
Okay. So with that encouragement, they gave me their words that, okay, we're going to try to start attending. But again, if we come in there and there's this blame game, if it's going to still be the same kind of environment, we're going to stop attending. I said, oh, yes, be my guest. Trust me. This is not, cast on concrete. We can always change things around. The most important thing is it working for the team? Or, things that are not working, we need to make changes to those areas. So gradually, they started attending the sprint retrospective. Oh my goodness. And to my greatest surprise,
Yeah.
retrospective became one of their best events ever.
Mm.
They definitely valued it a lot, because what they realized is during the spring retrospective, they are not always celebrating themselves. They are equally talking about things that needs to be improved in the system or in the process. So with these things that needs to be improved, the team comes out, they collect data as a team, they analyze it, come up with those action items. Sometimes they come up with 6, 7 and more, but I always encourage the team, take between 1 to 3 action items, 3 at most at a time, because you have your other work that you're committing to. So on every sprint retrospective that we had, this individual team, the entire team themselves, they were able to come up with these action items, about 3 of them, that we kind of agreed collectively that this is what we are going to implement, okay, for the team to keep making that progress. So what happened is, on a daily basis, once we connect for the next day for our sprint planning, and we are moving these action items to our sprint, and we are gradually ensuring that they get completed at the end of the day. Once we connect back for our sprint retrospective, guess what? We are communicating. There is full transparency. We are communicating those action items that we took in the previous retrospective to, make everyone to be aware that, yeah, we were able to complete it. So the team gradually saw a whole lot of value, and their mindset changed. They definitely embraced sprint retrospective. And me, I always crack jokes sometimes. I asked them at one of the retrospective, I said, okay, remember we said we're just going to try this. So after trying it for like 3 retrospective, I said, okay, remember we said we're just going to try this. At this point, what do we want to do? Do we want to drop it and go back to our old way? They were like, you got to be kidding me. We are definitely keeping this. Actually, this is one of our best, Scrum events. So those are a couple of ways you can add value.
Wow, I feel like I'm sitting in an agile class, and I love the way you kind of really break that down. And we've really touched so many areas. I see so many questions that were aligned in that line. And thank you enough. You already answered all of that as well. And next question was, how do you inspire someone uh, just by what we're saying? Now, a couple of stuff I picked from Coach Germaine. Communication is very important, and the reason we have the Scrum value is not just for learning sake. We can actually leverage them during the practice to forge ahead. So there is so much we can learn from that. So let's kind of pick on the next question that's coming from Bazi. Can you be an Scrum Master and Agile coach at the same time? If you are the first Scrum Master of your company, you're also the Agile coach, because they are leaning on you to understand all of those Agile practices and also to learn more. Yes, so you can be that. You can also be an Agile coach. Okay, I was having a conversation with Coach Germaine, and she's like one of the lead trainers. So she takes a team, make sure that the team get to maturity, then transition that team, take another one. So as an agile coach as well, you also go down to make sure that all the team have all what they have in place before you can move ahead. So you can play both role at the same time. And now this is for Mary. Talking about team, please, how many teams do you support as a Scrum Master, and why? And what team um,
And
what
what's your team formation?
information? I get this always. Okay. Um, all
Okay,
right.
how many teams do you support? Now, this is based, again, every organization is different. Okay, every environment is different. But Agile recommends that, and a Scrum Master be dedicated to a team. But you might get into an organization where they want a Scrum Master to support two teams or three or four or five. Again, the organization is different. Okay. And at this point, we have to go with, the organization we fall into. But Agile recommends that, we support one team because it makes you to have that time to
Yeah.
fully support the team. It makes your work to be more efficient. You can definitely deliver that value, and you are there to support the team and equip them with, or make sure that the process is going smooth for them. Sometimes when you have so many teams, I was once in a situation where I was supporting five teams. It wasn't easy. It was heavy as a Scrum Master. So again, what will come from that is you realize that your efficiency is going to be reduced because maybe there are some back and forth events that clash, and at this point, because normally before you jump to another meeting, maybe you need a 10 minutes break for you to kind of refresh. Okay, you can't just keep jumping from one meeting to another. But again, that doesn't mean that I mean that is that organization, and that is what they wanted at that time. But again, it limits you being able to deliver that quality to the different teams that you'll be supporting. But if you have just one team, oh my goodness, you need to rock in that particular environment.
All right, perfect. So you can support as many teams as possible based on the workload as well. In a
Mhm.
safe environment, you can support 5 teams. Forget about that because it's a lot of dependency and a whole lot. In a Scrum environment, based on the workload, you can support up to 3 teams. I always advise after three, you need to advise your organization to say, you know what, is the limit. Don't only kind of just accept, because if you take too much and you don't deliver, that falls back on you as well. So you want to say, but then this also goes down to what I always say, building your case study. So if you say you support 3 teams, what were the 3 teams working on? You should be able to say, okay, one team was doing mobile automation, another team was an API team, other team was data engineering team, the other team was it a support team, develop team. So you don't only say, oh, I was supporting 3 teams, and then you don't have anything to say about that. So you need to go a bit more deeper than just say supporting one team or the other. Now, what's the role of Scrum Master and PI planning? I'm going to take this one. So the first thing is that you need to understand PI planning, and for you to understand PI planning, you need to understand the agenda. What is the step-by-step activities that are done during the 2 days recommended in PI planning? Now, when you understand that, day one is about the business overview, and then breaking down the futures and giving to the different, and we give them to the different team, and the team goes into the breakout room where the Scrum Master comes in and facilitate them breaking down these futures into story across the different iteration, and also helping to facilitate dependency, managing the program board, and make sure that they're attending the Scrum of Scrum, and make sure that they're helping the team to identify risks, putting them on the risk box. And also the second day, what happened, finalizing that plan, and you are facilitating, doing the same thing that you did in day one, and helping your team to run maybe the vote of confidence and the retrospective, their retrospective on the second day. So all of that happen if you understand what PI planning is about. If you don't understand what PI planning is about, you will not be able to answer this question. So I always advise people, this is a way to learn by steps. If I ask you, can you tell me effectively how to run an effective spring planning or PI planning? Now, you should have like a step-by-step process on how to do that. It's just the way we learn how to cook, the way we learn how to do. We do it like, oh, first put this, then you come out with this. When you take that step-by-step approach, it makes you to kind of have a picture of what is needed before what is needed. It's kind of the same thing. I surprising to me that sometimes when I ask people like, "Can you walk me through the Scrum events?" Like, oh, I don't know which one come before which one's like. Okay, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, so it's because they have never paid attention on the step-by-step process. They just know that there is events and they're not paying those detailed attention. So you want to make sure that you are paying those detailed attention for you to understand your role as a Scrum Master during PI planning. If you understand the agenda, then you understand when facilitation need to be done, and that's when the Scrum Master comes in. And what are the different facilitation that need to be done? All right.
And
Yes, go
just
ahead.
to just to chime in a little bit. And so during PI, there's need for the Scrum Master to partner with a release train engineer. It is very important, especially in an environment that has a release train engineer. You want to partner as much as you need to,
Yeah.
because the release train engineer is the facilitator of that PI itself. However, when it comes to the breakout rooms, like Dr. Francis rightly said, you are there to support your team to ensure that they are breaking their work into the different and assigning them to the different iterations based on what the organization sees fit, or maybe they're planning on a quarterly base. So you're supporting your team throughout that process. But before even the PI itself, you want to ensure that you kind of have these conversations with different teams that you have dependencies on, so you all are aligned. That way, if you go for this PI planning, you kind of have an understanding, a shared understanding that, okay, my team is dependent upon this one. Okay, now what can we do to ensure that this team A needs to do this work first? Because maybe the organization intends to build a car, and there are 10 teams working on building that same car. Now they have dependencies in so many ways.
Yeah.
Now the goal is, how do we agree on in such a way that I know, okay, team A is going to take this part, team B is going to take this one, and so on and so forth. So there is need for that conversation to equally happen, and make sure that your team is equipped with everything they need for them to succeed during that planning.
Yes, perfect. So that is safe for you. For those who have not done safe, you probably will be confused here. But I'm teaching a safe class on Monday, so if you want to join in, you can reach out, and you can be part of that class. All right. Now let's navigate to the next question. And the next question say, what are some of the red flags to look out when looking for a job description as a Scrum Master role? If they say they need a technical Scrum Master, you don't have a technical background, don't go for it. And now, when they say they need someone with a background from pharmaceutical industry, and you don't have what it, that's already a red flag, right? So you need to look for. But sometimes, about disclaimer, just my thinking, but this might help you. About 60 to 80% of the time, many recruiters are lazy in writing job descriptions. So they just go somewhere, copy and paste. And then you get to the interview and it's something different. That might also happen, which is why sometimes it's good to talk to the recruiter and say, okay, look, I see XYZ. Does it, how how tight are you on this requirement? And how do you do that? I ask people to leverage LinkedIn a lot. If you use LinkedIn and you subscribe on LinkedIn Premium, if a job is posted, you can write to the recruiter in charge and you can ask questions. If you also using other job portal, in most of the cases, there's a way to contact the recruiter to at least ask some questions before go ahead if you want to go to that extent. But in most of the cases, you probably might just apply. And if you get sorry, we move ahead, know that you were not selected, right? So if you call
And that
up,
is okay. That is not the end of the world. Keep applying.
very okay, very okay. Because definitely you want to take this question. They say, do you fix or facilitate in Agile? I said, don't me get confused with use of this concept. What are you going to say on that?
Do you fix or facilitate in Agile? Okay. So are you talking about a Scrum role, a coach, an Agile coach role? What role? We want to be specific here.
I
But
guess,
to address this really quick, do we fix or facilitate? We do facilitate events,
yeah,
because there are several events that the team needs to have for them to achieve value, especially if it's a Scrum team. And if it's a Kanban team, there are maybe a couple of Scrum events that might be adopted in that environment, even though Kanban itself doesn't have defined events or roles. But we see some organizations see the need to adopt certain events in their environment. Maybe they want to have stand up. Okay, again, it's going to be something that is going to be agreed by the team, but we facilitate events, or we facilitate event. We don't fix events.
yeah. So you can most often the challenge you have is to get into a team and start say, oh, you guys are not having retrospective. We need to put this. You guys, you're trying to fix. You don't fix. You further all in the change process, in facilitating change, you don't change anything. You talk with people and they realize what is important. I think Coach Germaine did a good job in kind of really getting down the way that she does that. And that was really what we needed to hear when it comes to our role in facilitating. We're not imposing anything, we're not fixing anything. We're helping the team to understand what they need. If they see the value, they are going to really pay attention to it. Now, the next question says, if a developer that owns a Spike story finishes his research on time long before the end of the sprint, what does he do then? Can he go ahead and start writing code? Right. If they finish a Spike story before the end, and if that was the only story that was assigned to them, what they do is that we need to have a conversation if start writing code was a priority. If not, that Spike story has been closed because the research work is done, right? It's been closed. So if they need to start writing code, it's a new story. We are allowed to bring in new story during the spring. It's not advisable, but we are allowed to bring it during the spring. So if they finish way ahead, for instance, we might be thinking that this is going to take us 5 days. And for some reason, someone said, oh, I figured out a way I could do it in less than 1 day. Now, we will not say we're going to wait for the rest of the spring because we already planned. So what do we do? This is where we have daily stand-up, where we have transparency on what is going on. Is a need now to have a conversation with the PO and the team, what is next, and we can pull that in the spring. Now, that is going to give us also an opportunity to retrospect about such situation, to look at how we're learning from what is happening. So if they finish with a spike early on, yes, then it needs to be a story now, which they need to pull in to show that they actually completed this work, then add more work during the sprint, and then completed it, which is a plus.
Okay.
It's better for us to add than to spill over.
That is correct. And just to chime in here, that's a very great and powerful response, Dr. Francis. So, another thing that we can do if someone finishes their work early is to focus on helping other team members that are struggling.
That's right.
It is very important. Remember, as a team, you have a sprint goal. And what you want to do is to work towards accomplishing that sprint goal. So instead of you maybe at this point going to pull in another work, focus on helping areas of bottlenecks is very important. Now, if others are doing fine, they don't need any help, then there's need for you to communicate to the entire team that, hey, I have bandwidth. I want to pull in this, or which one is of most priority? What do I need to pick to pull into this sprint? Maybe at this point it's an enabler story, which is okay. But because you have that bandwidth, okay, and the team agrees that because you must communicate it to the team, it's very important. You must communicate it. And once everyone's on the same page and the product owner kind of points you to what you need to pick next, then go ahead and pick it and start working on that.
Okay, perfect. So that's a complete response. All right. One thing about you responding to question during your interview, which is very important, uh, there's so many ways to answer a question. Focus on the first part. What the interviewers most often want is not for you to explain everything from A to Z. They just want to see if you have an idea on how to go about with it. So if you can give an idea and that idea is right, it's good enough. You don't have to go into all the details. We're just going in so many dimensions so that you can have more ways and understanding, so that when you're having your interview, you go on a conversation, not just one thing that you can think about any other thing any longer. So the next question says, what is our responsibility to add? All right. What is our add is the agile release train, and this is a safe environment. That's for just for more explicit.
Mm-hmm.
So what's our responsibility to the other Scrum Master, Coach Germaine? I'm going to roll that to you.
Okay. And art again is maybe, that domain that are working on the same, product. Let's say they have several teams working on one product. What is your role or your responsibility to this art? One, you want to make sure that everyone is kind of aligned. Again, you're gonna be dedicated to your team, but at the same time, you need to be connecting with other Scrum Masters within that particular art to ensure that, okay, if we have these dependencies, when does my team need to start focusing on this? You want the, you There's a need for you to kind of have transparency into boards that you have dependencies on. That way you kind of know or understand that, okay, this team is working on this right now and my team can focus on this later. So kind of bringing each and every one to that communication platform where there's nothing missed along the way and the team are still getting that value, connecting with the Scrum Master or liaising with them, ensuring that the product owners are aligned on the things that needs to be done first when it comes to features or and the user stories that the team needs to focus on. So that's kind of pretty much what you do when you're working with art in an art. Sorry.
Think that's what explained. Nothing to add in there. And the next question says you are a Scrum Master and your team rely on dependables. How will you, as a Scrum Master, facilitate this process for your team to deliver increment in a timely manner? Facilitating dependency is about communication. Would you have dependency? Communicate with them. Just about chatting. There's no special technique on facilitating. It's about communicating. Okay, we see that we're relying on you on this. What time are you going to finish with this so that my team can plan on how to pick up from where you are finishing? Then if the dependency are so many, you can have a special bot to track them, or you can have just to try to see where how the effect how they're rolling out. But in most of the cases, especially if you in a Scrum environment, it will not really be that much cumbersome that you need to create a setting. It's just about, as a Scrum Master, you need to take really good notes, because there are simple things that you can easily miss. It's about taking your note, making sure that before every day, and that also kind of add on the question like, after meetings, what would the Scrum Master be doing the rest of the days? This is stuff, the time that you have left on your time, you use them to chat with team members that have dependency. You use it to people that need help. You're communicating with them and all of that. So something to add there, Coach Germaine.
And there are several ways. I mean, the entire Scrum event itself, those are areas to kind of identify those pieces. Each and every one of those events, you kind of, because team are definitely going to be talking about whatever it is that, maybe they are struggling with. And that way it kind of helps you to proactively resolve some of this before it becomes something else. Because with dependencies or you want to make sure that they are resolved as fast as you hear them or as fast as you encounter them, because at the end of the day they're going to be a roadblock to the entire team. So these different events from stand up till even retrospective, those are kind of ways for you to identify these dependencies and make sure you're resolving them.
Yeah. All right. What's the difference between a safe environment and Scrum environment? How would you explain both concepts to a layman? Okay. Um, Safe, it's a more complex environment. Okay. Let's say you have I'm gonna take what can I take? Um all right, let's say you have a car that it's 3 cylinder and a one that is an 8 cylinder. All of them are car, right? One just have a more complex system than the other, but they do the same thing. One just have more power than the other. So a safe environment is still the same thing, but it's a bigger scale of doing things, which is why we need to have a higher level of collaboration. A bigger car uses more fuel. It needs to be a bigger level of collaboration. So they introduce an event that is called program increment planning, so that we can, since of because of the complexity, we need a spatial planning that comes in. But for the other one, Scrum is just simple. We don't need any so much specialty because we can easily just collaborate as a team. But because there are many teams in a safe environment, there is a need for an extra event called a PI that help us to simplify things so that we can now have more clarity. All right. That's the
Ah,
best way to explain it. So I can explain that. So if you have, please, there are also many coaches. I see many other coaches on the line. I see Coach Bridget. I see Coach Clement. So please feel free to drop some of those responses on the line. I see also Coach Jobeck. There's so many coaches on the line. They're adding so much value there. We want to acknowledge all the coaches on the line. Thank you for plugging in. We all learning. So there's another question here. The way I understand is just like say, okay, that's and safe goes with iteration planning, while Scrum go with sprint. Yes, that's another difference. That's
so, so, so let me chime in here a little bit.
yeah,
So in most safe organization or safe environment, we do practice Scrum as well. But like Dr. Francis rightly said, Scrum is done at a smaller scale,
yeah,
while SAFE is at a larger scale. So
yeah,
when you work in an organization and realize that they have so many teams, it becomes hard for each and every team member or for each and every team to communicate or interact with one another. Now, this SAFE scales this up to resolve these communication issues. That's why they
mhm,
have what we call the PI planning, which is that 2 days event, and each and every team comes there to plan, their work, depending on the different arts that the team is involved in. So that is just kind of the difference between Save and Scrum. But at the same time, that safe environment equally does Scrum. But Scrumming is at that small level. You do your
yeah,
PI to plan, or you do PI events to plan work that is going to be achieved for the next 3 months, or for the next 6 months, or for the next, depending on the cadence that the organization pick for their PI. But now, once you've broken down this work or features into user stories and distributed them in the different iterations, when it comes to Scrum, when you have this your Scrum events, for instance, PI planning, sorry, for instance, sprint planning, that is the day that the team actually pulls work into their sprint backlog. So at this point, that one of that iteration that you planned work for, because again, it's at a larger scale. That doesn't mean it has enough details for the team to start working on them. You still need that planning to break down things into, or to add more details or more information to the user stories to start working on them. So that's kind of the difference.
wow, more simpler than what I explained. So I
The
love that.
person asked for a layman.
Yeah, so I love that. I love that detail. So, because Germaine is very, very, very detailed. Please, for those who need help, you can reach out to her after this. I share her YouTube link. You want to plug in there, get more of this detailed explanation. And the same thing we always say: if you want us to do a video or equation, just drop a comment and say, please, can you explain this? We always take that into consideration. Right, and we're also going
And
to be
let us
having
know if you want us to do this more, this
definitely,
collabo. Let us know.
yeah. Oh, okay. We did not answer the other question. What is the difference between Kanban and Scrum team? Question, man, I'm going to leave that for you.
Thank you. So with Kanban, Kanban focuses on flow, okay, in the system. It focuses on throughput. It focuses on the team ensuring that there is nothing along the process of for them to do work, okay, and they are getting more work to done. Kanban focuses on for us, for the team to stop starting work and to start finishing. Okay, you don't want to take in so much. We don't want to see so much work in progress. What Kanban wants is that continuous flow. It focuses on throughput. Okay, what gets done. We want to see more work in done than what we are seeing in progress. So we have a couple of practices within Kanban. We can talk of WIP, which is WIP, that is work in progress. Or work in progress. So
Okay.
Kanban ensures that the team limits work that they have in progress. Same concept of me talking about the flow and throughput. We want to see more work in done than work the team have in progress. Okay. So now with Scrum focuses on ensuring that the team gradually focus in these different areas that so it focuses on the team committing to work for a period of time. It is time box. Kanban is definitely not time box. Okay, you just focus on getting work done. Moving work as smooth as possible to done. I used to compare Kanban to like the express lane we use, the normal road you use. Okay, let's say if you drove from your house to whatever location today, consider that to be a Kanban. Okay, because along the road you have different demarcations, different speed lanes, and all whatnot. The goal is for you to get to your destination as fast as possible. Anything with roadblocks, or maybe there's an accident, that's why we have police to intervene to ensure that this issue of accidents or whatever it is that is stopping the traffic, the flow for people to get to their destination gets removed along the way. That is Kanban for you. That's a simple explanation. And it is done in ticketing system, project support kind of work, work that just comes in and gets out. Okay, so that is Kanban for you. We have no defined roles, we don't have events there, but the team are organically going to pick what is going to work for them. They're going to adopt certain things in Scrum that is going to work for them. Now, when it comes to Scrum team, the Scrum team so it's time box. Scrum is definitely time box. Okay, the team dedicates to work, or they commit to work for a period of time, maybe 2 weeks, between 1 to 4 weeks, depending on what the organization picks. What I know is organization usually pick between so they pick 2 weeks for most organizations. So let's say the team that they commit to work for 2 weeks period of time. They get that done. They have a sprint goal in mind, and the sprint goal is a summary of what needs to be completed for that particular sprint. So now that is what a Scrum team does. We have events, we have roles: Scrum Master, Product Owner, Developer. Kanban doesn't have those roles. In Kanban, we only have developers. However, just like I said that organizations who adopt, or the team who adopt things that will work for them in Kanban, they can equally choose to have a product owner and a Scrum Master in that kind of environment. So that's kind of the difference.
All right, I like how detailed you go in explaining that. That's very, very important, and I hope this is clarifying. And please, kind of take some time and rewatch this. This is what you need. This is the practical aspect that many people are missing in understanding all of this in great detail. All right, Coach Germaine, we need to go a bit more faster with the questions. I think there's a whole lot of questions in there, so
Oh,
let's go a
wow.
bit faster. So most of the questions there we kind of okay. So tell me about your process and how you intend to run things, and how do you manage to keep your team focused. This is an open-ended question for me because definitely I'm assuming that I'm interviewing as a Scrum Master, and so tell me about your process and how you intend to get a team focused. Now, if the role I'm interviewing for is a Scrum Master role, then my process is Agile project delivery, which means that we need to deliver the work in increment, the 2 weeks increment based on maybe this person they're new in Scrum, they don't yet have a cadence, they don't yet have what cycle they're running, because if they already have, they will not be asking you about your own process. They will tell you what they have, and then they will ask you how are you going to contribute to this process. But we already kind of touch a bit about on how to manage your team to stay focused just by planning and setting a goal for your sprint. It's already a start for you helping your team to focus on specific work, right? So that's the way you help your team to stay focused. If you're delivering using Scrum, that is the process. How you help your team to stay focused, you plan in iteration, you actually prioritize the work, and you have a goal. If you do that, then your team is going to be focused. All right. So there's more you can go into detail, but I always prefer don't go so much into detail, especially if you're a newbie, because you're going to complicate yourself. Right. Now, but then the reason sometimes when we explain something, we go into in depth is for you to understand the in and out. But when you actually responding to interview question, the technique is to, if you know about 5 things, say one, and then if they ask a follow up, say the second one. They won't ask the third one. But sometimes when you want to go over and over, you entangle yourself. And also, one of the important value we are looking for leaders is the ability to really put things together in a simple way to stay focused on what has been asked. All right. I'm gonna roll over the next one to Coach Germaine. In Scrum, they say it's all about empiricism.
Empiricism.
How do you explain this?
Okay. So yes, in Scrum, not just in Scrum, in Agile as a whole. So Agile has several frameworks, and so in Agile we focus on empiricism. Of course, we need to deal with facts. Okay, you're not putting something out there that is something that you discover maybe 10 years ago, some years back, or something you assume you're going to get in the future. No, we focus on the current data that we have. That is what Agile is all about. So, take for instance a team that is working, or a team that just started this Agile journey. They have been trained, now they are in their launch phase. Okay, now once they start working, at that point from the beginning they don't have any data to say, okay, this is how much they can commit to, for their sprint. Okay, when it comes to workload. But gradually as time goes by, they are going to build that metrics. Okay, they are going to understand, okay, this is how many story points that we can deliver per sprint. Let's say if they go through 1, 2, 3, 4 sprint, and they come up with an amount, an average um, story points that they can actually deliver per sprint. Because how you can get that is you just need to sum up the different story points that they achieved for every given sprint and divide them by 4. So that becomes the data for the team. That is empiricism. We focus on facts. Okay, we don't focus on things on past events. We don't focus on future. We focus on what is happening right now. That's actually reality.
Yep, reality. So, and also very important. That's why we always say when you get into a team, don't start changing stuff. You need your own data in order to start making assumption, or in order to start helping the team. Don't rely on. You can have an overview of what has been going on, but you want to have your own observation to make. So, Lydia said, what kind of question to expect in Agile Coach interview? There are going to be more of situational leadership questions. How will you help your team? How will you make sure things are going okay? How will you help a team transition? Those are the level of questions you will mostly get in an Agile Coach interview. So it's a very long one here. Let me try to rate this.
Okay.
2 days to the release of a feature, you found out a developer working on a story add an item which he feels is a great. Okay, now there's already something there. He feels it's a great thought. Um, it's great, though it was not part of the customer requirement for example, he was creating a login page and okay, how do you handle this as a Scrum Master in a manner that the developer won't feel disappointed? All right. Um, Now this is where the Scrum value come into place. All right. So this is where you want to use your this that's what they feel. That's already going out of our goal. The reason we have a goal and we agree as a team and commit to it is because we want to keep that focus. So I cannot just feel like this is important and add this on. What you do is like politely, okay, Peter, I think this is a good thought, but remember, this was not part of what the customer want. We want to be able to stay focused. You can discuss this with the PO, and the PO can talk with the customer. If they need this, then in the subsequent spring, we can add this. As simple as that. No complication. You don't want to go, it's just a simple conversation and helping them. I had a scenario today in the one of our mastermind, and there's a developer that it's I would say, will I say rude? Will I say want to be noticed? And will I say, yeah, he is a good developer, but then he had that option like saying something one, if you ask them, say, oh, I don't want to repeat myself again, and all of that. And that kind of raised so much tension during an event. Just imagine you're facilitating and then you ask me something. I said, but I already said this. I don't want to repeat myself again. And we in a everyone is there. That's the team, right? That's why sometimes when someone say, oh, I can run 3, 4, 5 teams, if your team don't give you trouble, you're fine. But this we work a lot on the mindset, on the mental work, which that is really really draining. And the Scrum Master was asking me, how do you handle this? Which is why you need a lot of personal development as a Scrum Master. So in cases like this, which is also like what we have here, is just to say, okay, it's no worry. I just wanted to make sure that you kind of reaffirm the reason why you asking. But then you need, this is stuff that if it continuously happen, you need to address that during the retrospective or one-on-one to be able to take this further. All right.
Yeah. So in this agile field, what I always, communicate to people is you need to put the mask on first before you can help someone else. It is very important. If you're not in your right frame of mind, how can you help another person? Okay, so put on your oxygen mask first before you go into putting in for another person.
Very important concept. Okay. Using empirical process control, using empirical process control is working in a, okay, it's just trying to answer the question which was face fact, experience based, and evidence based. Yes. The next question: if you recognize a bug during deployment, how will you handle this situation? Coach Germaine.
Okay, if you recognize a bug during deployment, how would you handle this situation? Well, a bug is a bug that needs to go back into the backlog because there's no need for you to deploy something that you know fully well is not working because at the end of the day, it's going to come back. So if you discover something in the process, okay, team, okay, first of all, let's put this back and we're going to have a conversation with the team. What happened here so that we can improve on it? Maybe there was a particular step that was missed. Maybe the team was kind of rushing. Again, I don't know what the situation might be, but this might be some instances that we are going to encounter bug. Okay, maybe the sprint is coming to an end and we're trying to finish as much as fast as we need to. Then we miss some specific step, thereby ending up with what we call bugs. But again, once you see bugs, there's no need for to deploy them because it's going to come back to you. So
That's
why not focus on bringing it back for the team to work on it before maybe you can deploy it for the next set of deployable work items or functionality.
very important. And that's the difference between product delivery and project delivery. With project, it's about time. With product, it's about value. It's not like we need to. Yeah, although we might be working on a release, it's better to go in late and in good quality rather than to go in and then come back and rework. We also have a great response from Benny's in regard to the question that was asked, the difference between a Kanban and a Scrum team. So you might want to review also this on LinkedIn in the chat box. That's a great contribution there as well. So thank to all of those who are sharing love there. Please, we need to do this more. Yes, yes, yes.
More of love, more of love, more of love.
Yeah, we need to do this more. All right.
Okay.
So detailed with the answer. Thank you, Coach Marie. Marie said you so detailed with the answer. Yes, I love Coach Germaine for that. She break it really, really down. Um. All right, perfect. And also, there's another iteration here on Kanban. Is first come first serve. Hot cake, which is why they deal with pull factor as a form of modus operandi, unlike Scrum where things are done in incremental. Okay, yeah, that's a good explanation, but try. Bend down and bend up. Chat used in safe environment. Yes, they are used in safe environment. Remember, Coach Germaine explained that safe environment, we also scrum in safe environment. We also run our events. So you also gonna have your bend down and your bend up chat as well. And yes, Rodney said thank you, but this is truly informative session. Can you please explain story splitting in the Scrum environment? All right, story splitting in the Scrum environment. Okay, Coach Germain.
Okay. So with story splitting, a couple of things you need to focus on. So, okay, who is the user, for instance, or who is the actor that you're using, you're working, that intends to achieve this particular, that wants this story to be delivered to them, or this functionality to be delivered to them. What do they intend to achieve, and why in the first place? So
Yeah.
with story splitting, we want to make sure that it is it is small enough that can fit just within a sprint, and that it has all of the description that is required, and it has an acceptance criteria. At the end of it, how do we know this work is done? Because that is how we get to validate, to accept, or that is when this customer tends to say, okay, this actually meets my definition of done, or this is actually what I am looking for. So with story splitting, we want to ensure that we have these different areas that are fully filled. For instance, description, acceptance criteria, and story pointing. Okay, that goes a long way to talk about estimation, and that's something that is done by the team. So again, with story splitting, you just want to make sure that it is something that the team has enough information and that there's no ambiguity. It is something that is understood by each and every developer that needs to focus on getting them done. Split them to be small enough that can fit within the sprint.
Thank you very much, Coach Germaine. And just to add, we have horizontal and vertical story splitting. Vertical simply means that we're paying attention that what we are doing is adding to the increment of the sprint, and horizontal, we're not so much paying attention if it's adding or not. We're just making sure that we kind of slicing it down, right? But you want to make sure that your story are vertically sliced so that they are contributing to your increment. All right, we're gonna be out of here in less than 10 minutes. So we've been here for more than our time box. And the Scrum Master, we and Agile coaches time box is very important for us. But
Yeah.
let's take a couple of last questions which are coming in. Any question we don't take or we miss out, and the next session we might take that on, or we just continue the conversation um, when we are offline. Okay. Um, okay, this is a question from uh Dorothy. Can the developer agree not to have the retrospective? If so, how is this process handled? I think Coach Germaine did a detailed explanation of when she got into a team and they said the retrospective was a blame game, and how she was able to get them 10 things around by having one-on-one with them, understanding why they don't want it, and then kind of having a training session with them, go through values, and then asking them to try. After they try, then you ask them, do you still want to keep it out? Now, you don't want to force things, but you want to show them the value. What is the value we're bringing? And this is going to be a question where you're also going to come across when they say that, um,
Which
we,
is your best event?
yes, or
It's
you
a
have a
Scrum Master.
yeah, or you have leadership that's resistant to process, and how do you do? Now, we're not, as Scrum Master, you're not coming in to change. Many organizations are having challenges with Scrum Master because they're coming in and making unnecessary changes that are causing so much hiccup in the team. What we're doing, our goal is to show value and then ask them what direction they want to take based on the value we have shown them. So you don't want to get in and start changing stuff. Yeah. Um, uh, can you talk about the story mapping? All right. Can you talk about story mapping and product roadmap?
So this is a very big topic. It's not something we can finish today. Maybe it's something we can address later.
I know, right? Yeah. So, in a very short form, yeah, that's when we talk about story mapping and product mapping, is just like if you want to go to New York, you go to Google Map, right? There's a direction on how you get there, all of those connections. So when we talk
So,
about story mapping, it's what are the connection? What that story mapping actually help us to also know what to complete in one sprint. What is going to be the connection between the story, help in prioritization? what is connection between one feature and the other, how was the story aligned. And when you go to product roadmap, it's the same thing. We want to deliver this product. What are the futures? How do they connect to each other? When are they going to come in? How do we, what is supposed to be done before what? And in
So,
that process.
yeah, and just to chime in, let me just put this very short and simple. Maybe it might be helpful for some folks. So it's a visual representation of work that needs to be done. So you kind of represent it out, and
Right.
each and everyone can see that, okay, this is what we need to do. Just like, the example Dr. Francis gave about the GPS. If you intend to go to a particular location, you're going to have a GPS that is giving you that direction. So that is what, kind of story mapping is all about. And roadmap again is, okay, we have this overall project in mind, or this product that we need to work on. How do we go about it? We begin to break down pieces down. We need to break things down, and we can follow that route. Okay, this is the way we need to go about in achieving these different pieces to fully get our vision at the end of the day.
Yes, perfect. All right, a couple of questions. I'm just going to run through them at very high level, then we'll come into a closing conversation because our time box is out. So, this one, can you please explain what kind of teams is in healthcare and banking companies? You did explain one of the past questions, some of the teams in the insurance company. All right. There's definitely no clear difference that a Scrum team in the banking industry is different from Scrum team in health industry or different from what kind of create the difference is what they're working on. It's on the functionality, not the industry. The industry doesn't really play so much. For instance, if a bank wants to be able to build an application on how they could map all their offices and have all of them in their mobile app, and a health industry want to do the same thing, it's gonna be the same, right? It's not that because it's in the banking or so, but what you pay attention is that maybe most of the bank they might be working on, let's say, optimizing security issues. They're gonna have the same function like a health industry optimizing security issues. The difference is just gonna be the environment. So I'll pay more attention here on the case study. What is the next session? We're gonna announce that maybe next Saturday. Normally it should be every Saturday, but sometimes this is kind of a holiday time. It might cut across vacation or so. So normally on Saturdays, but we would definitely announce that time. Irene, thank you both. How often we live session happen? Okay, we might decide to do it every day for some week, but then we're not promising anything, right? So that you don't hold us accountable. But we'll try as much as possible to see what we can do. Thanks, very insightful. Thank you, Coach Bridget, and then a couple of round up. We're not taking any question. We're just gonna display them so that you can have a understanding of what is left over. How can we add value to this program? Or just sharing, just share, please. Share and tag a friend, put a comment. You're already adding so much value into the program. Go and subscribe to Coach Germaine YouTube and follow her, please. You're gonna get so much deep insight. That's an evidence. You see how she breaks it down. So you want to do that, yeah. What's the role and responsibility of Scrum Master where there is a presence of a PM? Okay, we're gonna take this question next week. Most often, it's not really going to be different, right? In the PM does the PM work, does the management work. The Scrum Master doesn't do the management work. So the strength of a Scrum Master is in focusing on doing what you know how to do, not in focusing on what you don't know what to do. So focus a lot on your own environment, and you are going to definitely excel. So before we round up for today, we have just about a minute or so to go. I want to say a big thank you to Coach Germaine. And you can find her on YouTube. If you type Diadem of Agility on YouTube, her YouTube channel is going to pop up. And I'll say hit the subscribe button, put so many comments on videos you want her to do it. Now you know if you push her to do it, she's definitely gonna do it. So I want you to push her to get more of those videos in there. And because you're requesting for that, she's definitely gonna do it. Connect with her on LinkedIn, and if you need help, coaching help. Coach Germaine, can you talk a bit about your coaching program? When is your next training session, and how people can join in, all of that?
Thank you so much. So I have a coaching session, and I do have level one, two, and three. So the breakdown is as follow. For level one is for aspiring Scrum Masters or Agile coaches, that have little or no knowledge about this career. Maybe they just heard it for the first time and they are very curious and inquisitive. They are hungry for the knowledge. Now, they come into that level one where we train them. So we have this session every first Monday of the month. Okay, so every first Monday of the month, also we run it for 1 month, the entire training for those aspiring Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, where we kind of give them the concept. And the class is Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. EST, every Mondays and Wednesdays. Then now, when it goes to the level two, that is where we focus on on the interview preps, because again, the fact that you grab the concept doesn't mean that you know a lot. It doesn't mean that you're there yet. There is need for you to still, be for someone to handhold you, to bring you to the right direction. So we do interview preps in our level two class, and after level two, once you get your offer, okay, you move into level three where we have our community of practice. That is for people who are already working in the field, so they can get to share ideas. There's no need for people to reinvent the wheel. If things are not working, we can definitely share those experiences. So that's pretty much about my coaching session. And for level one to level three, I run it with a colleague. So we are two of us actually, and again it's Monday through Wednesday. So he handles maybe a, a level one this time around, and next time I handle level two. So just like that, we switch.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing. So definitely you need more that in-depth knowledge. You've confirmed yourself what you can deliver. Please reach out to her. I teach purely safe. I don't do she's gonna teach you PSM and others. I go to her, she give you all those data. I go on purely safe, and my I'm more how they call it, Monday to Thursday we are done 4 days, 4 hours. So if you want to go like speedboat, reach out to us. But it's gonna be purely safe, and our next safe certification is starting this Monday. And definitely, yeah, we'll do interview prep as well, and we'll do also have a community of practice. It's your choice, right? We have so many opportunities out there, and there's need for collaboration per se. Some I will always advise someone that it's about how you connect with someone, how you understand the explanation, right? And definitely, I will advise you, for those who are struggling, most especially to grab the concept, plug into her session. She's definitely going to deliver without any doubt. All right, and I want to thank Coach Germaine. Thank you very much. We um, talk about the next time we're going to go live, and we'll definitely share with you subsequently. But then for everyone, keep asking, keep those questions coming in. Maybe we miss out some questions, and there's sometimes the question doesn't reflect on our end. We can only see them after. Don't be upset that we did not answer your question. And sometimes we can only see comments that are coming in from some platform because we're using a third-party streaming app. So don't bother about that. If I miss your question, I'm definitely going to plug in and go through some of those questions on social media and see how to answer. If there's specific question for Coach Germaine, she's also definitely going to go through those comments and reach out to you for any further support. So thank you very much. It was great experience, and the question were too much. We planned for 1 hour, but we spent 1 hour 34 minutes. So whoa. That was a lot. All right. See everybody around. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Yeah.